Hello and welcome to the 140th edition of the Comedy Slab. It's not exactly a big birthday, but hey, it's got a 0 on the end, so let's enjoy it as a slightly special show. Nice to have you along. If it's your first time, basically, never trust anyone who starts a sentence with basically. But anyway, basically, the show is a review of a comedy. We take a different comedy each week. I being Adrian Lacey in the southeast of England, and the Squire in the Midlands is Shane O'Connor. We take it in turns to set each other homework. Last week, I set him the homework of watching a specific edition of Sean Locke's 15 Storeys High. And it was and is Series 2, Episode 1. We will get to that in a mo. Actually, no, I'll ask you before we go any further. Mr. Shanester, I have to say tonight, we see each other on Skype. You do look a bit dodgy in your black woolly hat. Like, you should have a bag with swag written on it.
Says the man who's got his background on Skype that's like some kind of office. But
are you being beastly? Oh, it's a very funky office, you have to say. It's a dodgy background. It's not real.
It keeps every time you move, you kind of go all wibbly wobbly like a ghost. And so
the
I
eyes
can't
follow
really
you around the room.
Yeah, your eyes are craning. The one eye's craning around your beak to see.
So a bit like a Picasso.
Exactly, yeah. What, have you seen the Grand Baigneurs?
I said we'd meet you past the bloody Rubens by the Dutch masters. No, you didn't, Dad. Anyway, some comedy news, and you've pointed me to an arresting headline. BBC rejected David Jason for Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. You have to be of a certain age, or Google it, to know that show from the 70s. Allegedly, the BBC rejected David Jason on the grounds he had no, quote, star quality.
Yeah,
what's the story, champ?
Well, I mean, it's a typical like tabloid turning it into something else, really. But it's come out of a lovely interview with Raymond Allen, who's I think he's about 81 now, years of age. Raymond Allen, of course, wrote Some Others Do Have 'Em, and he was just saying the stresses and strains that he went through to write this. He said, you think writing comedy would be a fun process, he said, but he said it was just so stressful. Not least the casting. And he reckoned, this is what I thought was quite interesting, because I kind of knew that David Jason had been offered this role in the same way that everybody talks about the fact that Jim Broadbent had been offered Del Boy. Before David Jason. Although I'm reading a book by David Jason at the moment, one of his memoirs, and he reckons he was fifth in the queue. I can't think who the other two would be for being offered Del Boy, because Jim Broadbent was offered it. But before that, was it before that or after that? There was a Scottish actor that was offered it, N. Rytell. Do you know N. Rytell?
Oh, yeah.
He was offered it as well. But as I say, David Jason swore that there were another two before him as well that were busy or whatever. But they were saying that Frank Spencer, if David Jason, like the BBC, didn't think he was good enough to be a lead character, but they'd also offered it apparently before they gave it to Michael Crawford. They'd offered it to Norman Wisdom, who. Apparently, according to Raymond Allen, said he didn't really kind of find it very funny. He didn't kind of get it really. Although you can see him doing that role, couldn't you? In a way, although he'd have a bit.
I mean, on two grounds. One is he played the sort of little boy lost so well that the fall guy, which is why apparently he's was a big celebrity in Albania because they like that kind of thing, as do we. So we've obviously got something in common with Albania. And the other thing is, of course, doing the pratfalls and the stunts. Famously, Michael Crawford did his own. You could see Norman Wisdom doing that likewise.
Too much pathos with Norman Wisdom, though. My wife always says that she, as a child, she used to try and watch Norman Wisdom films, but couldn't because she just found them too sad.
Don't laugh at me,
'cause I'm a fool.
But of course, he wanted people to laugh at him because he was a fool. So you can't believe what you hear in pop song lyrics. I'm sorry to hear that. I really enjoyed Norman Wisdom films as a kid.
It did, this whole article, though, it just really does. It really does point to the art, the magic of casting, doesn't it? It's all in the. I mean, one of the things that Raymond Allen said is that Ronnie Barker was offered Some others do have them. Now, you just can't see that, can you? At all?
No. I mean, an accomplished actor, more than simply, as it were, in quotes, a comedian, although that's a vast skill as well, covering a wide spectrum of things. But on top of that, he could do straight roles. I mean, famously, he went into retirement relatively early after the two runners and then came back and did a role as a butler in that Churchill drama, didn't he? The storm clouds approaching, the gathering storm.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that one. No.
Oh yeah. Not a huge role, but showed that he could play a straight role. And he would have been in his 70s then, I think. But I don't quite see him as Frank Spence. But the genius of Michael Crawford is that you can't think of anyone else doing it. Really, I think.
I do wonder, when because you have casting directors very often in productions, and I do wonder whether you should have, because you hear about people writing comedies or even writing dramas with people in mind. The words that they're writing, they imagine an actor, a specific actor, speaking those lines, and you do wonder whether you kind of should you trust the writer to say, okay, who have you got in mind? Who would you like to see? Who are your top three for this character? Because they know the idiosyncrasies of the character, don't they? Well,
certainly there should at the very least be a discussion between the writer and the casting director. I think it's only a courtesy. But I would think quite often, it depends on egos, doesn't it? It's whether, a good casting director, a good anyone will take advice from good people. But if egos get in the way, then it's, well, who are you as a writer to tell me who I should cast? I'm not saying that happened here. Just I'm saying that's a sort of danger, potentially in any walk of life. I would have thought that should be treated with respect, because my guess is, well, if it was me as a casting director, God help us if that should ever happen, but 9 times out of 10, I think I would see, oh yes, the person you said you had in your mind as you wrote this, I can hear that too. Because if the writer's good, then it should be convincing, shouldn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I just kind of think if you've lived with that character, if you've lived putting that character down on the page and drawing the characters. And again, it's that kind of thing, isn't it? You don't know how much of, just taking Del Boy as an example, you don't know how much of Del Boy was on the page and how much of Del Boy came out of David Jason, and I don't know. I just think it just shows you how casting could completely change something and either make it a success or not, as the case may be. But it's fascinating, isn't it? I was hoping that they were going to say, because there's a lot of biographies coming out at the moment. I love a good biography, and I was hoping that they were going to say that Raymond Allen has written his autobiography, and that's what it's all about. But I think it was just this interview that they did, really. So no luck there.
Shame. But anyway, we got that originally from the front page. Down at the bottom of the page links to other sites from comedy.co.uk, and then the story itself, the interview, is in the Mirror. So I'm sure a search of Raymond Allen, some others do have them, should find it. Okay, are we ready to sort of sanitize our hands? We've done that a fair bit over the last year. Put on the gloves, get the scalpel out, and put 15 Storeys High, Series 2, Episode 1 on the Slab. And, oh gosh, what's this episode called? We were talking about it earlier.
Vince the Skiver.
That's what I was going to say. But unfortunately, I was a skiver and didn't have it written down. Thank you very much. That's why I like working with you. You make up for all my many shortcomings. So, before we hear one of two audio clips, we'll set the scene a bit. Well, I set the scene specifically from the first audio clip in a Mo. And we'll have a general overview of 15 Storeys High as well before that. But before even that, as I'm bound to ask now, I think that I've wheedled this feature subtly into the Comedy Slab week by week. What did you feel when I suggested this as something for your homework last week?
I felt sad.
Could you unpack those feelings, those emotions? Were you breastfed?
I
don't mean in the last week.
Not while we were recording. I wasn't. No.
Very reassuring.
I felt grumpy. No. How did I feel? I felt, yeah. I mean, it was kind of. It's a bit like going to call on an old friend, isn't it? I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I've watched this a very long time ago.
I think you did mention it, yeah.
And my recollection of it is that I came away thinking that it was a well put together piece of work. But you never can definitively say that you're going to arrive back with that same feeling, can you? That's the thing we both learned, I think, through the Comedy Slab, is that a lot of water goes under the bridge, and you end up feeling differently about different things, or maybe differently about different actors, or you come to it with sort of preconceptions of baggage, and your mind can very often be changed. So yeah, kind of like, oh, okay, what's this going to...
A little bit, ooh.
Yeah, what's this going to dig up for me, really?
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm a big fan of Sean Locke, stand-up wise. I've seen him live at, I think it was at Leicester I saw him. I think we went to see him at Leicester. And I've seen I think he's got about 3 videos out, which, I think he's kind of... In fact, I was listening to one of his stand-ups the other day. So I'm kind of a big fan there as well. Are you a fan of Sean Locke or not? Are you?
I like his stand-up. I'm not a completist, as you know, on anything really, but I'm always pleased to see him on something like Live at the Apollo. I remember it sticks in the mind. Okay, I can't be ultra specific, but I just remember a joke about his Toyota car, and it ends up with a fox being sick over the car because it's looking down its nose at him having such a cheap car. It's just not very fair on Toyota owners or Toyota Motors Limited. But I think, well, if it sticks in the mind from, literally that's years ago, from one watching of one Live at the Apollo, there's something that gets under your skin with Sean Locke. Something that I gravitate towards in performers in general. I'd put Lee Mack in this category on a good day. I've seen him on a bad day live, but in my view. But on a good day, Lee Mack, and every time I've seen Sean Locke, it's that warmth.
Yeah, how weird you should say that, because I've seen Lee Mack on a bad day as well, and for me the problem was it wasn't his material. The problem was he was doing a lot of interaction with the crowd in a big venue, and I couldn't hear what the crowd was saying. So
I remember you saying,
it's just awful.
For me, I think, I don't know, it wasn't quite that, because it was a smaller venue, lovely venue just off Leicester Square. It's not the Soho Theatre. Anyway, it was more he was in, shall we say, combative mode.
Right.
He'd just come out to fight the audience. And I thought, this is before anyone, there were no heckles, anything like that. I wouldn't dare take Lee Mack on, and I don't think anyone else would have done. He walked on to love, but he seemed to be in an aggressive mood. That's how it came across to me.
Right. Oh, sad.
Odd. So I caught him on a bad day, but on the telly, and his persona in Not Going Out is very warm and witty.
Funny guy. Yeah. I mean, Sean Locke, when I saw him live, he was. I don't think he does this anymore, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything. But he does this gag about if you're a minotaur, and but facing the wrong way, so the man half was facing the back of the horse. and then he had an interval, and in the second half he came in a costume as a minotaur facing the wrong way. It was like that kind of genius. And I thought, it was that kind of physical comedy is when you kind of think, yeah, he doesn't mind what he does, he's not limited to one type. But no, very enjoyable. Anyway, 15 Storeys High. Yeah, we're going to have a clip.
Now, the main thing to say about this first clip, I mean, Sean Locke plays Vince, and he's, everyone in the show really is a kind of loser, aren't they? In traditional, they're not careerists. It depends how you define success and loss. But he's a swimming pool attendant locally. It's shot in southeast London, Ladywell. Oh, actually, no, this one I think is in Waterloo. First series was at Ladywell, southeast London. But the first thing to point out about this first audio clip, first of two, is that we're underwater. So if it sounds muffled, that's entirely intentional on the part of the sound mixer and the writer, who is Sean Locke. And we're looking at Sean through the water from pretty much the bottom of the pool, and his colleague, Darren. And they're both looking at, well, shall we say something brown and possibly not very savoury to be left on the bottom of a swimming pool.
I can't believe anyone could do that.
Yeah, huge, isn't it?
I meant in the pool.
Oh, but it is big.
Well, it's magnified by the water. Once you get down there, you realise it's not that big.
I'm not going down there. I did it last time.
Yeah, but it turned out it was a coconut.
It wasn't my fault.
Well, I'm not doing it.
Neither am I.
We'll just have to leave it then. We could, couldn't we?
What, just pretend we ain't seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, you stay here. I'll go down that end.
No, I'll go down the shallow end.
Well, Stacey's here, isn't it?
No, she's not. I didn't even see her. I just fancied going down just for a change.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, go on.
You're pathetic.
I mean, that was my first laugh out loud moment when he said, you know, it makes you wonder how anyone could do that. She goes, yeah, I know, it's massive, isn't it? I meant in the bowl.
Wrong end of the stick, if you'll pardon the phrase.
Just look, and you're right. I mean, it's like that kind of, and you're submerged, so you can't quite hear what they're saying, and you're looking up from the bottom of the pool. I mean, it's just a great start, isn't it? Really, and as you say, I mean, no disrespect to any swimming pool attendants that are listening to this, but you've never really seen one that you kind of think, well, they're a bit of a go-getter, because it's difficult to come across as a go-getter when you're in shorts and a t-shirt, isn't it? Really, I think and flip-flops. So,
yes.
But anyway, do you want a headline? Shall I give you a headline for?
I certainly do. Your reaction in headline form, as tabloid-esque as you can make it.
Well, I've gone with 15 stories high gave me a lift.
Oh, see what you did there. There's a lovely bit later with the lift, which we may or may not reference. It's not in the audio clip, but Vince picking a fight with a lift, an empty lift. Anyway, okay, I like that, and obviously you liked it too. So brought back fond memories. Or maybe you didn't remember it that well, but you enjoyed it.
Well, fond enough that I think actually it's about time I dusted it off and got it out again to have a watch, because I did really enjoy it. I mean, it was. There was a freshness about it did you feel that kind of? It was almost like they sat down and thought, let's write something that's going to be different.
I think so, and I mean, the funny thing is, although I enjoyed it too, I struggled a bit with getting meaningful clips out of it.
Yes.
Apart from anything else, as we discovered with something a few weeks ago, the scenes were very often quite short. And we try and find something that's a minute long. Sometimes I was struggling to find even a minute. That was, I think, slightly under a minute. And trying to find something that makes sense in, to someone who's not seen the whole show, or that we can at least explain. But I was thinking that sorry, I just finished this point. Hold that thought. But the dynamic between Vince and the person he calls the Chinese guy, played by Benedict Wong, known as Errol, which I think is a kind of slow burn joke in itself. I don't know too many people of that kind of extraction called Errol, but maybe I don't go out enough. But it's almost like it's right. We don't want the classic bully and the subservient one. We don't want protagonist, antagonist, although there is a bit of that. There's a different quality that you'd struggle to find a parallel with other, as it were, double acts within comedy dramas elsewhere, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that about the Errol thing, but it was before he was cast in it, when it was 15 Minutes of Misery. On
Radio 4?
On Radio 4, yeah. I think they brought the Errol character in then, and I think it was played, I can't remember who it was. I read it somewhere that it was played by a white guy, and it was somebody that we'd know.
It's not Kevin Eldon, is it?
No, I don't think it was.
He was in that, but not necessarily in that role you're talking about.
Yeah, and because I thought, is Errol, is that kind of is that a sort of, as you say, a cultural joke there that he's got that. I mean, I just think he's fab. I've seen him in many things. Benedict Wong, and not least the fact he does a fabulous cameo appearance in the IT Crowd, where he something to do with challenging Miles. Maurice Miles, the really square one, played by Richard Ayoade. They're doing underground street countdown competitions for a countdown teapot. And he was the guy who was organising them all or something like that. So I remember him in that as well. So, but he's just got a really naturalness about him, hasn't he? Don't you think? He's like, I mean, he's huge. You know, he's in DC films now. I think
as in DC Comics, rather than
the Avengers franchise. He's been in a few of those, so I should imagine he's well sorted for retirement now. But he's just got like a kind of, like I say, there's a real realism to him. You don't ever think this guy's acting.
Yeah, and now that sounds a very obvious thing to say about a professional actor, but it's not true of all of them, is it? Unfortunately,
no. I mean, same with Sean Locke. I think Sean Locke's a great actor. I mean, I'm not sure what his breadth and depth would be like. I'm guessing he would, because he's very similar to the person that he does, a stand-up as does, isn't he, in a way? So, but
yeah.
I've got to mention, did you see who's written it along with Sean Locke?
I did, but I'm sure you're going to remind us.
It's Martin Trenaman and a guy called Mark Jones. Do you know who Mark Jones is?
I don't. I know a floor manager at the BBC called Mark Jones. I don't think it's the same person.
This particular Mark Jones is actually Mark Lamar.
Oh, I've just that moment seen it, even as you said it. Because I was. It's one of those things. Every now and again, I think the classic question: where are they now? Mark Lamar, after he left Buzzcocks, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, just disappeared from the showbiz scene in the UK, writing under his real name.
Yeah, it doesn't say. I don't know whether he's written anything now. I'm not really quite sure what he's doing, now wise. But yeah, I've not seen him in anything, certainly.
I remember him saying, and this was quite a telling thing, and he had a couple of showbiz guests on at the time. Can't remember who they were, but he said, when people become famous, I don't know if he's quoting someone, but he said that's the point at which their development as a person and maturity and so on stops, because you're indulged, because you've got money, so you don't have to learn how to, I don't know, change light bulbs or do your own washing or washing up, or
right.
He was probably talking in wider terms as well, but so he seemed very aware he wasn't going to go down a Simon D route and become a sort of unfortunate victim of being dropped in showbiz. He seemed to leave on his terms from Buzzcocks.
There's a lovely video. I think it's an extra from, it might be on your DVD that you got actually, but there's a lovely video on YouTube of Sean Locke and Mark Lamar talking about the writing process and how they did it, and and all the different things that they did in the show, and it's fascinating to watch. One of the things, I can't believe it, because how sometimes a lot of this goes over my head. I love that idea. This idea that you could go to another scene and see a set of characters, or a couple of characters, depending on what it is they're cutting to, and it has absolutely no bearing on the story. There's no interaction with the main characters. There's no interaction with the plot. It's wonderful, isn't it? It's like they become just these little vignettes on their own, which are like kind of completely apropos nothing. It's just exquisite. I think I couldn't think where else that had been done. I was trying to wrap my brains to see if anyone else had done that. You cut to this thing, and it's just absolutely, completely nothing to do with what you're watching, and then you just go back to what you were watching before.
I mean, the whole thing generally has got this very slow pacing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm as sold on these cutaway scenes, as it were. There's one where actually, no, there was a joke in it which I think was so not pointed up. Are you thinking of the guy with the settee and
the hamster or whatever it was?
Was it a hamster?
I don't know what it was. Yeah,
but did you listen to the hamster?
Yeah. And I loved it. His girlfriend or his wife or whoever she was. Was she seemed to be like Southeast Asian, didn't she? But you didn't know whether she didn't speak English or whether she just was completely ignoring him. It was fabulous because he kept calling, didn't he? He kept saying, what was it, Sue Lynn or something, Sue Lou or something like that. He's going, quick, lift the sofa, and she just like totally ignores him.
She was reading, wasn't she? And
Yeah,
looking the other way.
She didn't even look up. It was just brilliant.
I can't let the sound effects go without a mention. Do they remind you of a certain puppet?
Was it Gordon the
from my
Gopher?
youth? It sounded like a sooty
Noise
to me.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, first off, I thought, is there a toy there that this hamster's biting? Then I thought, no. And it was totally out of keeping in a way with the gritty realism, for want of a better sort of cliche of the show.
Oh my God!
He had this.
He's got under the sofa. He's got a quick Sulu. Get up! He's got under the sofa. Get him! We'll have to leave. Oh my God! He's gone in the kitchen. He's escaped. Where is? And it's just like this complete chaos, isn't it? Really, but she doesn't. Did you notice as well that when they cut to these scenes, and I was really impressed that I picked up on this because they mentioned this in the interview. I think it was
the mix,
the director's idea. Well, the edit that
wipe.
they used, the wipe was a roll up or roll down or roll left or roll right.
Yes.
Suggesting the relative location to this flat to Sean Locke's flat.
Yes. People making very close notes would probably look for continuity errors there, but I at least got the sense that, yes, we've moved within the 15 stories.
Yeah.
You mentioning the name of the character who we think might be from Southeast Asia makes me even sure it was could have been a sooty callback because, of course, one of the characters was Sue.
Sulu, yeah.
Anyway, are we in a go mode to go to our second clip, do you think?
Yeah, why not?
Let's set the scene once again. Well, you've already mentioned the solitary testicle. Now, I've got a bit of a problem with this, not with on the testicular front personally, but watching it a second time through, which I'm so glad we do generally, or listen a second time through with a radio show, picking up on details, because I'm lousy at picking up on all details in one hit. But the testicle reference comes from his file that the woman he fancies, another pool attendant, or she does lessons at the pool.
Yeah.
She's only got it through looking at his file, but later on it's almost as if he's told her in a sort of intimate way, a way to break the ice, and a bit of an odd way, of course, but it's an odd show. He's an eccentric character. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of at one remove. It's only chance in terms of the plot that this woman's seen his file. It doesn't quite work in retrospect.
No, I didn't. I didn't notice that. I didn't pick up on that. I thought. I thought his reference was to the fact that he'd admitted it to her, kind of thing. But then he also admitted, and I hope I'm not preempting anything from the clip here, but he'd also kind of admitted that he'd just put it on to make himself seem interesting. Which
well, hold that. No, so finish that thought. But it is that sequence in this second clip.
It just kind of doesn't that just kind of strike at the heart of the character, the mentality of the character that you're dealing with. I mean, to me, that was just like, what? It was.
But it's borderline painful, isn't it? Or it goes over the border into pain, don't you think?
Yeah.
His life is so tragic that he's pretending he's had a testicle removed.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hear more about that in a sec. But I should set the scene, just rewinding a little bit more. Darren, who was his colleague, we heard in the first clip, it's his birthday, Darren's birthday, and the stitch up is that it's meant to be a joke that there's no one appearing other than the Sean Locke character Vince at the drinks before the meal, and then there's a twist because Darren doesn't want to go to the restaurant where everyone actually is. It's error compounded upon error. But it is very tragic feeling. It's shot in a sort of gritty, only barely lifted off colour. It's very grey looking, isn't it? And as concrete is in the rain in southeast London where it's shot. Anyway, let's hear this. So we're in the restaurant. They've just had a bit of a sing-song, which all the sort of colleagues around the table in the Italian restaurant, where Vince and Darren have eventually gone, And the sing-song has been around the theme of Vince having only one testicle until he kind of interrupts to announce this.
Do you know what it's like to have one testicle? Do you? Any of you? Do you know? Do you know what it's like? Do you? Do you know what it's like to have one testicle? Do you? You don't, do you? No. Neither do I. I haven't got one. I've got two. Yeah. I haven't got one. I've got two. Two testicles. Me. Two, not one. Two. Yeah. So sing some songs about that.
What do you mean you've got two?
I thought you'd be pleased.
Why would you lie?
Oh, you know, I've never done any travelling, I haven't got any hobbies on paper, my life looks really dull. I've been to Holland once, Rotterdam.
I told you about my dad and everything.
But you want to go for a drink now, do you?
That's weird.
What? I'm weird? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm the weird one. I'm the weird one. Yeah. Oh, hello, Vince. I don't like you. You've got two testicles. Oh, that's better. Now you've got one. Oh, let's go and have sex. Oh, you've got one again. Oh, go away, go away. Yeah, I'm weird. Yeah, I'm the weird one. Yeah, right.
Like that.
I mean, I just love the way that the backdrop to that is they're all kind of thinking of another song that they can sing that relates to having two testicles. It's well crafted, isn't it? I mean, there's no question about it that it is.
Even on the second viewing, I missed the fact they have Kajagoogoo's Too Shy.
Too Shy.
Because I was listening to the dialogue. Too shy. It actually hurts as I laugh.
And I think, do you know, we were talking about Mandy last week in episode 139 of the Comedy Slab. We were talking about the Diane Morgan comedy Mandy. Which I got confused because I thought this was it must have been the 15 in the title, but I thought these were only quarter of an hour episodes. Of course, they weren't. I'm not sure if the radio ones were.
The radio was, yeah. It was those. It was the Wednesday night 11 o'clock slot. It was two shows, 11 to 11:30.
So that's probably where I got the idea from. But it also, the other parallels I found myself drawing between Mandy that we slabbed last week and this one was the pace, the slow pace that you've already mentioned, and the other thing you've already mentioned, which is these kind of like these, you know, the Dutch angles for the cameras, and everything's like kind of low angle, or it's not traditionally where you would set angles up for cameras, is it? You know, it kind of makes it look a little bit different, but not all the while. So it's not overdone. It kind of just gives you a sort of a mood, a flavour for it. It is. To me, all the way through, I'm sitting there, and I don't know whether you had the same feeling as well, but all the way through, I'm thinking, this feels like they wanted to do something that was going to be different in a few ways. That's all I could. That was the feeling that I got. This is so different. This is like nothing else that I've seen comedy-wise.
Yeah, I mean, the other way it could appear is that they are just people who naturally, I mean, comedians generally tend to think outside of the box. That's why they're comedians. They don't conform to standard office jobs. It might be more, it's just another way of expressing it, though. It might be more that they were just less constrained. This is the early days, relatively early days of BBC Three. In fact, Series 1, I think I read, do you remember it being called BBC Choice? That's, I had to be reminded of that. It was BBC Choice, BBC Prime at one stage, and then Greg Dyke became the new boss of the Beeb, changed it to BBC 3 and 4, which I think was helped enormously with seeing them as equals alongside BBC 1 and 2.
Well, I didn't get this because this ran between, according to what I'd read, this ran between 2002 and 2004. But BBC Three didn't launch until 2003, so presumably BBC Choice, when it was called that before that, must have been pre-2003. Then is that what we're saying?
That's what we're saying. Series 1 was under the old BBC Choice, and I should say this. That's the other odd thing, to see a show credited to BBC Three with no production company mentioned.
Yeah,
and so it was all in-house. It was a BBC production under the banner of and paid out of the budget of BBC Three. My recollections of early BBC Three, and so this is only a year or two into the life of BBC Three. This is when it obviously was a proper TV channel, in quotes, as opposed to online, although history is repeating itself, as we were talking about, I think, last week. It really was a breath of fresh air. I mean, it tended to be quite sweary Mary, but that to focus on that is to miss the wider point of it. nothing was on the lines of a classic sort of Terry and June, what I call the ding dong, hello darling, I'm home from the office, good day at work, and all of that. It has its place, but it certainly seemed to make a massive break with that. And is that your recollection of early BBC Three, their comedy offering?
I can't remember it. I can't remember early. I couldn't remember BBC Choice. I mean, if I'd had that in a quiz, what did BBC Choice become? I would not have had the first clue because that's all wiped from my memory. I have no recollection of that at all. And then my enduring memory of BBC Three is what it is now, which is a channel for 14-year-olds. It seems like it's been like that for a long, long time. Well, it is, isn't it? That's their demographic, 14-year-old kids.
Not just 14-year-olds, but yes, definitely a younger demographic. I remember you saying your dad said he couldn't find anything on BBC Three for him. He was in his 80s or 90s.
It's all rubbish. I said, you're 87, Dad. That's why. It's not really. They're not really looking at your.
You're not in the middle of the target.
No, not at all. God bless him. But yeah, so that's all I can remember of BBC Three. So no, I don't have any recollections at all. What was the other one you mentioned? BBC Choice. And what was the other one? BBC.
BBC Prime, I think, was the other half of it.
And that became
very
BBC
unsexy
4.
Names. That became BBC 4, yeah.
Wow. No, I would never have guessed that in a million years. That I'd have no recollection of that at all. And I don't know why. I don't know where I was. I must have been...
Well, one thing was I don't think Freeview had got going then because I think we still had... But my memory's getting hazy. Do you remember the precursor to Freeview? This is getting really...
Well... Here's the thing.
Train-spottery.
This is why I don't remember it. It was because at the time, for a long while, until I thought, hang on, I'm not watching this, I had Sky.
Right.
So it wouldn't have appeared on my radar, would it then, I suppose? No, what was the precursor to Freeview?
And, well, ITV Digital came along, but before even ITV Digital, although it was an ITV service, was on digital.
Right.
And that takes me back to something I mentioned the other week. And you kindly sent me something on YouTube, which included me.
Yeah.
On a channel that I still maintain I've never met a viewer of that channel called Carlton World. But I was so flattered, nay, deluded, that it was out there on YouTube.
I was actually going to cut the rest of it and I was going to send you, I just haven't got around to it yet, send you a video with just the bits with you in it. And maybe we could play that next time on the. Well,
if you can find any Thursday night ones, I went a bit nuts on Thursday nights, even by my standards.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was sending myself up. I'm not sure if there were any viewers, if anyone got the joke, but it was a very young night, and already then I was too old for that young night. So I was trying to sound cool, but I was sending myself up as a sort of trendy vicar type.
Right.
Trying to sound cool. Whether it worked, whether anyone got it, because you don't expect that necessarily of announcers. I was probably trying too hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, have we moved into that portion of the show where there is no return, where we have to give marks out of 5 each and tot it up?
I think
10.
we have.
I think it's your turn, isn't it, this week?
Okay. I'm not gonna drag it out. I'm just gonna say I give it a 4. I really enjoyed it. I was almost teetering on the 4.5, so I enjoyed it that much because it is just so different. But I thought, no, come on, rein yourself in, O'Connor. Don't get all overexcited. 4 is good enough. Sean Locke is a class act. Martin Trenaman and Mark Lamar, Mark Jones, whatever you want to call him, class writers, great cast. What's not to like? Yeah, it's solid 4 for me.
Okay, I can't get as enthusiastic, I'm afraid. So it's a classic lacy 3.5, but still not a grubby 3.5. I didn't have any belly laughs. I know that's probably not the point. It is, for me, in that genre, I've dubbed smile-com. But having said that, plenty of smiles. And yeah, as you say, a breath of fresh air, so I admire it for that. I'd love to dig and see how Mark Lamar's doing and if he's written anything else more recently, whether under his showbiz name Lamar or Mark Jones, as you say. And always happy to see Sean Locke. So, thumbs up, 3.5 from me, 7.5 out of 10 between us.
And apologies, the nearest I could find was where you can buy the DVD on Amazon. It's not actually streaming anywhere. You can't, whether you signed up to...
That's a shame.
Amazon Prime or any of the BBC services, or I couldn't find it on anything at all other than to buy the DVD. Or you could just pop round Adrian's and borrow his if he's not watching it. I'm sure he'll lend it you.
Yeah. Well, as I only need to watch one episode out of the whole DVD, I won't keep you waiting for too long.
Okay. All right then. So for next week, in the best tradition of Monty Python. And now for something completely different.
Completely different.
I mean, different. I can't even begin to tell you.
It's not Monty Python, is it?
It isn't Monty Python, no.
Okay.
It is an Anglo-American thing. It's an Apple original production, this. I'm not going to play the guessing game with you because I don't think you'll get it. Because
no, you will.
If I didn't... Actually, shall I just try it? It's about an American... college American football coach who comes over to the UK to manage a football team.
No, I'm not ringing any bells,
No.
and not naturally in my sphere of influence, not being a footballer. But
if I wasn't having a
be
mooch
interested.
about and ended up like coming across one of the trails by accident, I wouldn't have known about it either. It's a program. It's called Ted Lasso. Although don't we as English people say lasso? I don't know.
yeah, well, that's the problem with doing co-pros with America.
Yeah, you think they choose a different name, wouldn't you? LASSO, Ted Lasso, Ted Lasso, whatever you want to call it. It stars a guy called Jason Sudeikis. I hope I got that right. And the rest of the cast is English. Who's the American guy? The rest of the cast: Hannah Waddingham, Jeremy Swift. And Nick Mohammed's in it as well, which is nice to see because
your mate.
I do quite like a bit of Nick Mohammed now and again. Yeah, and that's basically it. As I say, it's about an American guy. He's a college level American football coach, and he decides to come across to the UK and start managing AFC Richmond. Despite the fact that he's got no experience at all at managing a football team, and then hilarity ensues. I'm guessing is the next line. I thought
probably the aim anyway. Whether it does ensue, we'll find out.
Well, we'll find out, won't we? We'll get to the bottom of that one next week. I've thought there's only one series, and I thought rather than go for episode 1, because that's kind of like just the setup from what I could see. If I just had a quick scan through, I thought we'll go. I think there's 8 in the series, so we'll go for episode 6. So it's series 1, episode 6. Not sure if it's got a title. Let me just have a quick look and see if I can find the title for you. Yeah, series 1, episode 6 is actually called 2 Acres. 2 Acres.
That's half of your acreage. Okay. I shall look forward to that, something different, and hopefully our listeners will do a little delve themselves to watch along, play along with us. Okay, so on anti-social media, we are at Comedy Slab on Twitter. Do follow us there for little sprinklings of news. We don't overdo it. It's quality over quantity, and a promotion of our latest episode each week when it drops on a Monday, missus. And also we are at Comedy Slab, our Facebook page, so if you could like that as well as following us on Twitter, that'd be fantastic. Personal recommendations, friends and family would be great too, whether in person or via that dreaded Zoom call or whatever other video conferencing platform you use. And lastly, but in no way leastly, please do, if you haven't done so already, and yes, we mean you, thank you kindly, if you give us a nice generous star rating on Apple Podcasts / iTunes, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, whatever it's called this week, YouTube.
Indeed.
We're all over it, aren't we? We're like a mad dog's poop. We're all over the place. And so,
thank you for that.
What a lovely image. And so, until next week, don't forget, in the words of Sean Locke, just say no to everything. Don't say yes. The only time to say yes is at the airport when they ask you if you pack your bags yourself, and if you enjoy and like to listen to the Comedy Slab. That's the other time you should say yes as well, isn't it? Yeah. Thought of something else.
Yeah. See what you did there. I'm about to deposit half a coconut in the local swimming pool. When
Is
it
that
reopens.
a euphemism?
That's for you to decide, for me to know.